What's good, Chiefs Kingdom, and welcome back to Kingdom Connect. As today we're going to be diving into one pass rusher in particular, and the KC should be interested in trading with them before the season comes to go, because we are a little ways away, but it can be right around the corner, and the Chiefs do need to revamp that pass rush on the defense. So let's dive into that. But without further ado, please be sure to subscribe to the channel and like this video, as I will keep you up to date on anything Kansas City Chiefs related that you do not want to miss out on. And without further ado, let's dive into this video. Now, the first thing I'm going to start this video is rewinding a little bit. Earlier into the week, the Miami Dolphins signed Melvin Ingram to a one-year, $5 million contract, and that put a lot of Kansas City Chiefs fans in shock, and including myself too. But I wasn't as pressed as what everybody else was. Yes, he was a good rotational player on our team, and he helped in the run game and also in the pass rush too. Even though he only recorded one sack, he did put pressure on the quarterback. So it was definitely key with the likes of like a Chris Jones or Frank Clark. Even though they're good players, as of last year, they weren't consistently getting to the quarterback. So we needed another piece like that with Melvin Ingram coming in. But Chiefs Kingdom is acting like we lost a Derek Thomas. Yes, he was a good rotational player, but to the value to where it's going to like knock off Kansas City and it detours every plan they had for this season. Like, no, like that's not the case. And honestly, I think this was the route KC was going with, because they tendered him for a reason, and they tendered him knowing that he probably is not going to be back. So why not get something worth the while, which looks like in the range he signed for is going to be a 6th round pick. Basically what they traded with Pittsburgh. So it evens everything out. Is it unfortunate? Yes, it is. But also too, there are still like older veteran pass rushers out there like a JPP, a Carlos Dunlap, where you could sign to a one-year deal and they can have the same type of impact, if not greater, than what Melvin Ingram came to. It was great to see him in Kansas City for 1 year, rocking that Kobe jersey, but now we got Sky Moore doing it. But let's dive into the guy I'm more interested in, and if Kansas City should be willing to trade for him, and that is Robert Quinn. Now, he had trade rumor discussions earlier in the offseason, and now it seems like he's still standing still with it. Jason La Canfora confirmed it, saying that he still doesn't want to be in Chicago and he would like to be out by the beginning of this year. Now, it's whether Chicago wants to move him to, and Chicago has been, like we've seen throughout this whole offseason, throughout the draft too, they are with the youth movement. They traded already Khalil Mack, so seeing if they wanted to get more draft capital for next year to build around Justin Fields and revamp this offense, because Chicago right now, they don't look like a promising team going into 2022, but with a young roster and more pieces, they might be intrigued to trade Robert Quinn. Another thing too to look at is their new GM is our former, I think, director of personnel, and Ryan Poles. And he might and could strike a deal with the former staff he used to work with and have communications there. It's going to be interesting to see. And also another interesting point will be price point. Like, what do you trade for a player of Robert Quinn's caliber? It's funny with Robert Quinn, he's been in the league for 10 years. So, but during that time too, he's been like, I don't want to say inconsistent, but it's like inconsistently productive. Like, he has a lot of productive seasons. Like, out of 10 years, I want to say 5 seasons he's had double-digit sacks, and I want to say 7 of the seasons he's had 8 or 9 sacks. So he knows how to constantly get sacks. He knows how to constantly get pressures. He gets a lot of forced fumbles. I want to say he averages almost 3 or 4 a year. I think that's really good for a pass rusher. It's also too age. He's 32. I don't know when he'll turn 33. Let's just say he turns 33 throughout the season. So do you want to trade for someone his caliber of that age? And then another thing is he's in the third year of he's going into a third year of a 5-year, $70 million contract, which will pan out to be like $13 million a year. That does work in KC's, I'm drawing a blank. How am I drawing a blank? KC's, so one of y'all going to hit it before I do, but it does hit in KC's cap range. There we go. But also too, do they want to pay $13 million for an aging pass rusher? Honestly, I would, just because I don't think that's too high of a price. We've seen lights of pass rushers like Von Miller and so on get paid 15 plus million a year. You could keep that same contract with Robert Quinn and pay him 13 plus. I would be fine with it. Another thing you would have to factor in too is, like, you got Frank Clark, which I'm banking on. I think he's gonna have a good year. Into most, it might be a decent, but I think he can average between 8 to 10 sacks next year. And if he does that, that's a win. Like I mentioned before in prior videos, this is a make or break year for Frank Clark, and he's got a lot of incentives on the line. And I think he's going to be fighting hard for that money and fighting hard for a potential new landing spot next year or an extension with KC. So we'll have to make and see how that goes too. And it's also, how much of a role will George Karlaftis have in his rookie year? Initial reports and thoughts are he's going to be ready to go week 1, and KC wants him like a starter right away, which is exciting to see and fun to see too. But no matter what team you are, you cannot have too many pass rushers. And I love George Karlaftis and the game he brings to Kansas City. I think he can be an instant impact, but also too, it's unproven in the NFL form, so why not have him learn from guys like Robert Quinn, Chris Jones, and Frank Clark, and just get his technique like magnificent. And it would be great to see. But also too, he can also have production too, like rotate in and out with the Clark, rotate in and out with the Robert Quinn, rush all three at once. You know how Spags he used to have like that NASCAR blitz package. Like, bring that back. Let's have fun with it again. I think the most interesting point is going to see what is the value for Robert Quinn. There was another report that was mentioning, my apologies, my allergies kicking my ass, but there was another report saying that Robert Quinn might draw more draft capital than Von Miller did when the Rams traded for Von Miller from the Broncos. And that's too rich. If that was the case, I think he would have been traded to a different team. If those are the type of offers that are already out there, I think the Bears would have done traded him. Now, I would trade up a second, like just a second in a heartbeat. Like, KC has 12 picks next year, so he's going to be like, I think he's in that range too, and I think he's another instant impact starter. Another thing is, like, he had a really quiet year, like at 18.5 sacks. No one was talking about him a lot, whether it's just because he was on Chicago, whether it was because Chicago was always losing, so that means they were always down, so every down was a pass rushing down. That's when I looked into it more. It's like, when more than half of his seasons he's consisted of double-digit sacks, he's been a key pass rusher, but it's just like no one really talks about him. And I think he would be a great starter for KC. I think he would take KC's defense to the next level. I think that helps your secondary too, because we all know you get to the quarterback, that means there's going to be a lot of tip balls, a lot of underthrown balls where DBs can make a play on the football. I would be intrigued with it. I just don't know what you would have to give up to get a Robert Quinn, and also what kind of factor it plays into like a George Karlaftis production, or how much KC really is buying into George Karlaftis year 1. Because we have also seen this too in this free agency period as well. For example, James Bradberry, he became a free agent, and we all thought, man, KC would be like, we thought he would be a key destination spot to go to Kansas City, because we've heard the trade rumors and things like that. But when he became a free agent, you didn't really hear those rumors anymore. It was just like during the trade, which who knows why or whatever. But it's like, once these guys get over a certain age, it's like Kansas City not really interested, and they go with the youth movement, which I'm perfectly fine with, because even with last year too, Veach knows the picks he made and he trusts them too. So it's going to be fun to see. It's going to be exciting to see. And we're going to close this video off with the question of the day. What would you be willing up to get Robert Quinn? I think a solid 2 would do. Anything like a third too, that'd be great. I think a deal can be struck. I mean, there's connections there. So if Chicago really wants to move Robert Quinn and continue the youth movement, I think Kansas City should be calling. But let me know in the comments how you guys are feeling. I'm going to cut this video off now. Also, I will be checking back in with you tomorrow. I know I mentioned I was going to give you guys my way too early 2022 Kansas City Chiefs NFL predictions. I'm running a little late on it. It'll be on the channel tomorrow, so you guys will not miss out on any of that. So you do not miss out on it. Please be sure to subscribe to the channel. And also, if you did like this video, hit that big thumbs up for me. I'm checking out. Y'all take care.